Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be pruning up 3 hibiscus. My 3 hibiscus here have made it through the winter and they're just starting to put on some new growth for this summer. So I want to get them all pruned up before all that growth comes in way out at the tips. I want to bring them in more compact. Here's a look at the trees I'll be working on. So this one is my yellow flowering hibiscus. It's a fairly new tree. It's not that old yet. Over here is the cutting that Connor gave me off his fire and ice hibiscus, or snow queen. I'm not sure what it is. It generally gets green and white variegated leaves on it, but sometimes they get kind of fire on them. You can see down here is an example of some red, white, and green. So this is a cutting off of this cutting, a cutting of a cutting, and it's growing in one of those, well, I guess stained glass boxes or pots that Mark in the KW Club made, and it's doing quite well. So I'll be pruning up all 3 trees today. I'll start the pruning today by working on the most complex tree, the cutting that Connor gave me of the fire and ice or snow queen hibiscus. Here's a look at the tree. And for a cutting that's not very old, it's starting to get some nice shape to it. So I've got a trunk line coming up, and this is kind of my apex here. And then out the back, I have a really thick branch developing. So I think there's a good opportunity to prune that off, keeping my taper and make this the apex rather than this strong dominant branch coming up. It's either that, or I could prune off the upper part of this and make it this part a more horizontal branch and keep this as my apex, pruning away this part, keeping this one up the middle. The problem with keeping this one is that here is the tree. I want to keep the apex over top of the base, the root base, so the tree looks balanced. I don't want my apex off to the one side. Some people like that. They like sort of a tree that's off balance a bit, or dynamic, or that, but it's not my cup of tea. I prefer a pleasant, well-balanced tree. It just appeals to me. I think it's always a good opportunity to take advantage of this taper here, getting rid of this thick branch at the back. Because you know, the trunk isn't very thick. So if I start making it a higher tree, it'll just look skinnier and skinnier. If I bring the tree down lower, it'll help make the tree look a little thicker and more mature looking. So I think that's the plan, is to remove this branch off the back. All right, here I go, pruning off that whole back branch. So I'll come in, make a fairly flush cut here. Big cut coming up. Here I go. Just like that. Now, let me see my cut. I could clean it up just a little bit. I think that's good. So there's the tree from the front now. So let's go back and have a look at the tree style. So here is a look at the front of the tree, and this is the front because it comes forward. Now, yeah, I don't want it to come too far forward. You can see the trunk angles back and then it comes forward. You know, it's possible this could be the front view someday, where you see that angle, you see the apex coming up. It's probably a little better than flat on to these 2 branches if I angle it more. So I'll mark the front of the tree. I've got a piece of wire, I can mark the front of the tree. So I think, yeah, this is definitely too flat on to the major branches. This view shows that curve of the trunk a little more. I think that's a pretty strong front view here. I'm just checking for other views, other possibilities. I mean, there's lots of possibilities, but I'm just trying to find the best kind of view to show off the features of the tree. I think somewhere here. I'll mark it as the front. Just like that. So there's the front to the camera. Here's a look at the new front. I think it's slightly better than flat on like that. Shows that curve of the trunk. The branches are nicely, one's in front, one's behind. Yeah, I think that's probably the best view for this tree. So let's start working on the branches now and the apex. So the first thing I want to determine is I have a branch coming here, and it's quite a bit thinner than this division up here. So these branches would be trunk lines, you know, trunks reaching up. This one could be a smaller branch down below, or I could clean it right off. I think because the trunk is curved here, it's on the inside of a curve. I think it has to be taken off. And then, you know, my first branch is a major division here, and then another major division, and then the apex. So that's all going to come off, these lower branches. So I'll just rough cut them off first, leaving that big kind of bulge there. And then I'll clean up the bulge on the trunk. So here I go with that, cleaning it up. Trying to leave the smallest scar possible, but also making it fairly flush and smooth. So someday as it heals, you won't even see that. It'll just blend in with the trunk texture. Okay. She's chewing on a raspberry. Must have tired her out, Laura.
What's happened to your skin there? Okay, come on, Cheep Cheep. Come on.
Well, there it is. It's a bit of a nasty scar, but from the front here, you don't even see it. So that's cleaned up. So next, I'm going to go up to this branch, the one off to the left-hand side. So there's a lot going on at the tip here. I've got 5 branches all coming from the same point. Ideally, I want to divide this from 1 to 2. So I have to pick my best branches. Now the thick ones are going to be trunks because they're almost the same diameter as the main trunk. So you don't want them as branches, or they would be too thick compared to the size of the trunk. So they've got to be upright trunks. So this trunk will come up and divide into 3. And then, you know, all of these trunks will develop more and more branches, and you'll get that nice kind of broom style to the tree. So from the front, which you're looking at the front now, I want to continue the upwards flow of this branch. I don't want it going horizontal, or it becomes a branch instead of an upright trunk. So I have to prune off. This is too horizontal. I'm taking this one off. There's 4 branches remaining now. This one is too vertical, so I'll take that one off. Leaves me with 3 branches now. Now, I think as far as flow, this is the best branch, and you can see if I've got all these buds now on it. So I'm going to prune it back to here. And I've got to decide now, I'm definitely keeping this as my branch leader or my trunk leader. I've got to decide, do I prune the front one off or the back one? I have the apex comes forward here, And out the back here, I have nothing in this area, so it's important to keep that back branch. So I believe it'll be this front one that comes off. Yes. So here I go. I'm taking it off. I'll come in on the angle and prune it off like that, getting rid of that little one too. And then I'll prune this one up to an outward facing bud. You can see there's a bud here, so I'll take it off here. So that's got that trunk line pruned up. Like that. Now, the next one is this branch on the right hand side. So here's the front view. So there's that pruning up. So you can see it still reaches upwards. So I want to do the same with the other branch on the right hand side. So let's start eliminating branches. I want that upwards flow. This one, it starts off horizontal, then it sweeps upward. I'm looking to see if there's a better flowing branch. This one at the back flows quite nicely. I'm going to get rid of this little thin one here. I don't like it. That takes one branch out. And then this branch coming forward here, if this is the front view, it's running parallel to the trunk line, or the apex at the present moment anyway. I may prune all this off and it may not matter. But I still think it competes. I think that's got to come off, so I'm going to take that off as my second branch to come off. Like that. So I'm left with two. And this one definitely flows the best, that back one. I don't like this one emerging from the bottom, so I'm taking this one off. So I'm not dividing from one trunk to two here, I'm just continuing it out the back. Like that. And then I have a stub here I can clean up. Where that branch was pruned back last time. So I'll just help blend it in a little. That's good right there. So there's the front view again. It's looking quite nice. This branch is a little too dominant. I'm going to take the tip off. So it's still flowing upwards, but it's a little shorter, more compact. So a dead bit out the back I can take off. That leaves us now with the apex. So here is the front view of the tree now. And you can see this branch is going straight towards you at a fairly low angle. It's a real eye poker branch, so I'm removing that one totally. So off it comes. And there's a bud out the front. I'll take that one off too. So now, from the front, I have one that's going vertical here, which is quite nice. Got a little stub I can take off there. Uh-oh, it's a zombie apocalypse. I'm going to prune all these upright ones back to outward facing buds. So there's a bud there, so I'll prune just above that. Here, I've got a bud that points out here, which I think I'll take that one. Prune just above that. So that's keeping, my apex divides into two here, and I've got a third one, which is staggered out the back, which looks pretty good. So here's the front view of the tree again. Looks a bit like, two arms reaching up, but I think that'll improve as the tree ages, as it, gets more and more development up top. I mean, it is possible to take the one off, but I don't know. We'll see. If that gets to look too much like opposite branches, which often happens when trees grow. When they're small trees, the branches are staggered by enough, and as they thicken up and grow, they start to look like they're opposite each other. So this may be that kind of a case where, I have to take off the one. The other possibility is taking this one off. Oh, that looks even better, I think. Let's do it. Let's take that one off. I think that looks good. Yeah. Let's plan for the future. So I'm going to cut it off and then clean it up. So here I go. Big cut coming up. Just like that. And I'll clean that cut up. This tree is going to have lots of character as all these wounds heal. You'll have all this scarring. So there is a look at the front now, and I think that looks really nice. It's balanced, it's got a canopy forming. Yeah, it's a good looking tree. So that concludes our first tree, the pruning up of our first tree, the Fire and Ice Hibiscus. So let's get out tree number 2. The next plant I'll be working on is my yellow flowering hibiscus. Now this one is different from the Hawaiian yellow flowering hibiscus, which is endangered. This yellow flowering hibiscus is very similar to my red flowering hibiscus in both leaves and the growth and everything. So I don't think this is the endangered species, but I do have one of the endangered species. I'll show you that. Let's head outside of the greenhouse here. So these seeds were sent to me from Hawaii, and here it is here. So you can see the size of the leaves on it. They're absolutely huge. Big heart-shaped leaves and very rapid growing. I've never had it flower yet, but I'm hoping maybe this year it'll flower. I'll take good care of it. I have a couple of smaller ones growing down here, but this one really took off. This was the most vigorous of all the seedlings, so it's pretty amazing. So I'm hoping, you know, this has a beautiful yellow flower on it. I think this is the species that's endangered. It's time to prune up this tree now. Now I have marked the front with a wire here. So this has been the front, and I was always struggling to get an apex to this tree. It always had a very strange structure, and I was pruning it, hoping to get, you know, something growing vertically as an apex to the trunk line, and finally here I do. I have a little shoot growing up. So finally I have a shoot that can be the apex of the tree. So I need to prune all the branches back. It's getting quite spreading, and again, it's a fairly thin trunk tree, so I don't want this huge spreading crown on a pencil thin trunk. So if this is the front of the tree, I've got a stub here I want to remove to begin with. So I'll get rid of that. Like that. That looks good. I want to encourage that to grow. So I'm going to prune off this branch shorter. Now I'm just looking for buds. There is one back here, so I can take it off right here. So here I go. I'll leave a bit of a stub like that. I've got a branch swooping out the front here. Again, I'm looking for leaf scars. I have one here, so I'll prune just in front of that. This is just pruning back the long winter growth. I may come in and remove branches still further, or do further work on it. Here, I've got a bud here and one at the back, so I'll take it off just in front of that. Now I've got a vertical branch coming up here. This is my trunk line here, so I don't want something competing with it. So that's going to come right off. Like that. That leaves me with a thick branch out the back here. So this branch out the back, I have a bud here and I have a new shoot developing here, so I can take it off just in front of that. And I will. There I go. So that's all the new growth pruned back. Now, I want to step back and have a look at the styling and just see what's going on with the tree. Here is a look at the front of the tree. Yeah. So I don't like, if this is the front of the tree, I don't like this branch. It sweeps out around the back and curves off to the left-hand side around the main trunk. So that needs to either be shortened or to redirect it, or just removed entirely. I'm going to try Oh. There is a leaf scar here. I'm going to try shortening it to there and see what that looks like. Let's try that first. Go back to the front. Well, that's better, but it's still not great. It still wraps around behind the trunk. Well, I will leave it for now. Maybe something else will develop in that area. I'm going to clean up all these stubs here from prior prunings. Kind of smoothing out all this area of the tree. Like that. I should shorten this. I have a leaf scar here, and I've got that branch over here, so I can shorten this back even more. That looks better. It's a little more compact. So from the front now, yeah, I could shorten this a bit too. And could I shorten this one is the question. I have a leaf bud here and one out front here, so I think I will. I think I'll take it back even shorter. Like that. So it's kind of like a stick right now, but it has at least some upwards flow with this. And as I grow, it'll smooth out. Trees always smooth out as they mature. So, you know, right now it's kind of a bit of a zigzag apex to it, but yeah, that should smooth out quite nicely. You can see some of the major scars where I've removed big thick branches here are beginning to heal and get a collar around them. That one's looking really good. The one up top is pretty well completely healed. This one's working away at a healing. Yeah, so all the pruning scars are coming along nicely. This looks a bit like a smiley face here. There's a smile and an eye and a nose and a closed eye. Kind of like a Halloween tree maybe. Anyway, so that is this hibiscus pruned up. I'm still not happy about this branch. That may have to come off in the future. Or now. No, we'll leave it for the future. Okay, so that's it for tree number 2. These hibiscus seem to be a magnet for whitefly and aphids. So when I brought the tree out from the plant room, it did have whitefly on it. I sprayed the tree, and today I'm going to spray it again as a preventative measure. I don't want any more whitefly and aphids on them. I've had enough over the winter. Here I go with the soap and water. Important to get the underside of the leaves. That's where they lay all the whitefly eggs. And it's a good time to spray it because it has hardly any leaves on it right now. So that should kill any insects that are on the plant. I've left the tree sit for a few minutes now. So now I'll rinse it off. I'm not going to use my watering can because I don't have any more rainwater other than my spray bottle here. So I'll just spray the leaves, top side and the underside. And I'll just leave the soap and water on the trunk. So that tree is all done. I can put it back on the bench. The next tree is actually 2 trees. These are both cuttings off that first Fire and Ice hibiscus, the cutting from Connor. So I'll be doing the same thing today to these. I'll be shortening all the new growth down, that winter growth, and then doing branch selection. So here I go. I've never picked a front or anything on these trees, so I'm going to start. I've got a stub here I can clean up. The apex. I've got a low branch here. I need to have some trunk on this. I don't want it a clump style. So I could leave these on to kind of thicken the trunk up, sort of like sacrifice branches. They do leave pretty big scars on the trunk, which isn't always desirable. I'm just going to leave them on and shorten them for now. Take that off. Take this off. This cut back. This to here. I'm pruning to buds that are facing outwards, so the tree is fanning outwards. There, so that's got that all reduced back to outward facing buds, so it'll continue to fan out, creating a nice tree structure. So I'm going to leave these lower branches on. They'll help kind of thicken it all up and maybe give it a bit of taper for the future. Now, as far as branch selection, I'm just going to take this leaf off so we can see what's going on with this tree. It comes up, these two are fine, this one's fine. There's no real opposite branches. I think the structure's looking quite good on that tree, so I'll leave it as is. The next tree comes up and it kind of curves around. It's a little, here I have a trident. I've got 1, 2, 3 branches. So I'm going to take out the middle one in this case, like that. I'm going to shorten this one to a downward facing leaf, like that. And I think that's it. I think that's it for these trees. Yeah, they're all pruned up, ready to grow. My hibiscus are all pruned up and ready to grow for the summer. It's time now for today's update. Today's update is my black locust tree. It's growing really, really well, and this is another tree I have trouble keeping up with the watering because it's got so much growth on top and it's in a fairly small pot, so I have to water it at least 3 times a day. So I'm going to prune the tree back to a smaller tree, and that should ease up the watering situation in this small pot. I'm going to start the pruning, but first I have to have a look at the tree. So you can see here, there was an apex here and I cut it off, and there was a bud back here, but nothing developed. So I'll take that off, that dead stub. At least I believe it's dead. I'll cut it in half and see if it is dead. It's hard to say. It could still be alive. Anyway, I have a new, stronger growth coming off here, so I don't need that stub anyway. So I'm going to take it right back, making it flush. Open my pruners up a little more. Like that. Then the height of the tree, I have at the base of each one of these branchlets is a dormant bud, so I can prune back. I'm thinking this one is a good leader, so I'll leave a stub and prune it back to here, taking the whole top off the tree. Then I've got some branches that are getting long, so this one I can prune back to this downward facing leaf, so I'll prune it off here. The back one, I've got a branch out the back and one here, so I can take it off to here. There's a new branch low down on the tree here. I don't think I want that low. I think I want a little more trunk line, so I'm going to take this one off. Like that. And there's one on the inside of a curve here. I'll take this one off also. Like that. And this one is also on the inside of a curve. Kind of cleaning up that trunk line and forming a canopy up top. So I think that's quite good. I think it's got the tree pruned up. I'll take this one off on the inside here too. Didn't see that one. Yeah. So that's got that cleaned up. There is a dead stump here I can prune back. Like that. I do have, if you look here or here, I've got 2 branches that are opposite each other. It'd be nice to choose one. I think this case it would be the back one. And take off this one, keeping my structure upright at the present moment. So that one's coming off. Now I think it is pruned up. It'll definitely take less water to keep this tree happy. It was drying out way too much. I'll use my last of my rainwater to kind of give it a quick watering here. That should do it. Now I did have the front of the tree picked here. Just pulling a weed out here, which is very nice, a nice trunk line, and it divides here, this branch going to the back, this one to the front. So the tree's looking good. It's got a lot of nice natural movement to it. It's starting to get some mature bark at the base. I'll show you a close-up of it. There's a close-up of the front of the tree. So you can see it has nice natural movement. It's getting some nice cracking of the trunk here to get some bark texture. Yeah, I think it's set up quite nicely to continue growing this summer. So that is the black locust. Now this tree was just growing in our backyard as a little seedling, so I've been developing it for quite a few years now, and it's starting to get a bit more of a mature trunk. I'm starting to form a bit of a structure, but you know, it takes years before you get everything, your basic branch structure and your primary structure in place. You're building trunks and movement and taper and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, don't be discouraged. Young trees take quite a while before they start looking mature. But when they do start to look mature and you've done everything right, they get character that's unbeatable. It has been sunny and hot all day today, but now the clouds are rolling in. Tomorrow we have a 94% chance of rain all day tomorrow. So I've used up the last of my rainwater on my trees today. I have no rainwater left. So I'm going to leave them as is. They might be a little dry tonight, but hopefully tomorrow we get rain. It's always nice getting trees pruned up in spring and then watching them grow throughout the summer. That is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.